Friday, and welcome to another installment of FanGirl Friday Live. My name's Anita Castellar, and I am your host for Unpacking the Business Behind Fandom. We have this live stream every week. Hope you join us every week and have some great times and some laughs and maybe drop a few kernels of knowledge here and there. So again, my name's Anita. Michael, welcome to the FanGirl Friday Live installment. How are you?
Great, Anita. Thanks. Great to see you again, as always.
It's good to see you too. We
love seeing old friends. Yep.
Yeah, we showed one of your new projects. So we're going to be diving into the Atari VCS this whole episode, including you, of course, and finding out more about you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just a little project that I'm sure you've been working on for a long time. So tell us a little bit more about you, though. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, my current role is I'm the COO of the Atari VCS and connected devices at Atari. So that's real fun, and obviously has a lot to do with why we're talking fandom, right?
That's right.
Atari is about to celebrate its 50th anniversary in 2022, wow. So pretty amazing, and obviously a amazing brand to work for that sort of transcends gaming and is really a pop culture lifestyle brand at this point. So very exciting and fun place to be right now, and certainly brings together a lot of my my skills and other talents that I've picked up over the years. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. The path here was let's just say I always say that I've always been sort of an enthusiast niche businesses. So
were you always into video games though, like your whole life? Was that your whole...
Yeah, I mean, I was an Atari kid. I mean, I had a Pong, I had a 2600, I had, I had that. I mean, I took some years off, and then actually, I got back into it in 1999 professionally when I was doing sports and action sports at NBC Sports. We were doing a property called the Gravity Games, which was an action sort of NBC's version of the X Games, which eventually morphed into the Do Tour. But but yeah, Xbox, the original 1999 Xbox, was one of the clients that I brought on board, and then I sort of kind of became the game guy for wherever I was working. So I did a bunch of other game projects, across. Hang on, we just got the chat box. I just want to give me a second. I need to move it into a position where it's not blocking your face, but that I can also see what's being said.
Oh, so yeah, it looks like we have. This is not live. This is live.
Yeah, no, it looks like we have a couple of.
We've got some comments
the
already.
Atari backers and a couple of comments. So yeah, so just very quickly, I'll just so I started in action sports, snowboarding and all that, skateboarding and skiing and all that. That led to working at, like I said, NBC Sports and was running all the all the sponsorships and all that for that property. Then I went to Live Nation, which was, at the time was still Clear Channel, but it was, obviously music, which is, the ultimate enthusiast niches, but also there, at the time, Live Nation used to own Supercross and Monster Jam and all of those properties. So, that was really interesting, exciting, and fun. But yeah, I mean, loved selling those concerts, but also I, did things with video game clients there too. So that continued, and I actually ended up, when you talk about enthusiast niches, because of the motorsports properties, I also created a property there called Street Warriors with a Z, which was like a, at the time, Fast and the Furious and all that was happening, and of course, Need for Speed, the video game, became one of our big sponsors, and we did a whole, build out at our final event in what's the track out there in California? I can't even remember.
Talladega?
No. Oh. It's the NASCAR track. I'm blanking.
You did a big event.
Yeah, right. So we did a big thing, and we did like an esports event, and it was funny because we were doing esports at the Gravity Games also. That's where I first encountered the guys like Major League Gaming and all that. And we had we did some esports things on the stage with a guy named Marcus, who's known as DJ Wheat on Twitch. He's one of the founding talents on Twitch, Marcus Graham, DJ Wheat, and so I've stayed friends with him all along, and he was helpful when we launched the Atari VCS, and I'll get to that in a second. But so from there at Live Nation with Street Wars and all that, I continued along that path, and then I got recruited by Samsung away from Live Nation, and I was doing esports before esports was this thing,
Was
right?
a thing,
yeah. So I was 10 years too early to that, but I ran a property called the World Cyber Games that was owned by Samsung, and once again, Xbox was a big partner there. The same people that I worked with at Gravity Games were part of that, and they were a big sponsor there, and we blew that out. We were on Spike TV, and we did the national final at Universal Orlando, and then we did the world final at so long ago. Blanking. We did them in. We did world finals in Italy. We did them in Germany, and we did them in Singapore. We did them, all over. And that was actually Seattle. We did the domestic one in Seattle in 2007. So we did a whole series with Jeff Keighley, who's a well-known gaming reporter and actually kind of an icon in the space, because now he does the Video Game Awards, and he helped us and was the host and the producer of those shows on Spike. So that led to 6 years at Turtle Beach, where I was, which is where you and I met, and and did some great things with Star Wars, and I also did some things with the Marvel guys. But the other more gaming focused ones, worked with Call of Duty, worked with the Blizzard guys, and built out and Major League Gaming again, built out all the partnerships. Twitch, we did an early partnership with Twitch that when I first did it, the chairman of the board was not happy with me. Why are these guys on our box? This was like
crazy.
This is like 2011, right? Why are these guys on our box? We're bigger than they are. And I said, trust me. And literally a year later, and this chairman of the board at the time was a pretty serious guy. He came back to me, a year later at E3, the first E3 2011. He was like, why are we doing this? And then at E3 2012, I think it was, hope I have my years right, he was like, Michael, I apologize. That was a great deal that you got in there, because they were being sold to Amazon for like $1 billion.
Yeah.
They knew, it was pretty cool. But yeah, so spent a lot of time, working on all those gaming partnerships and marketing. And, I was one of the first 6 people, that sort of built Turtle Beach, which was really fun and exciting. So it's been an interesting journey. So, I left Turtle Beach in 2015, and I did a year going back to sort of media and sponsorship. I worked at a place called Sports Rocket that has since been sold, but we were doing, all the streaming technology for like the E-League and Big Ten Network and the Drift League and, a bunch of different things. So, so like I said, enthusiast niches all along. And then, as that was winding down, I was there for about a year. Good friend of mine who was on the board of directors at Atari said, hey, Atari wants to, bring back hardware. And I know you from Turtle Beach, and I know you and how you work. And, you really need to meet the CEO. I'm going to, get you in there, and, you got to come. So here I am. And it's been, 4 years now.
And it just shows that your pedigree and all your little enthusiast niches just show you're the right guy for the job.
So far, it seems that way. It feels good.
Tell us a little bit more about the origin story, right, of the Atari VCS. And I'm interested to understand, like, what's the difference between that and what we know as traditional consoles, and why we're looking at it at a different perspective and trailblazing, it's always been a trailblazing brand, but why are we doing that again?
So Fred Chenet, who was the CEO I mentioned a minute ago, when he bought this version of Atari and brought it out of bankruptcy, he brought it out of bankruptcy in 2013. He had actually been with Atari as, I want to say he was president from like 2000 to 2007, and then they sold it to an investment group that, basically by 2013 had run it into the ground. When he brought it back, he said, look, this is going to be a different Atari. It's going to be a more nimble Atari, but the things that it is known for, the brand, obviously, first and foremost, and all the products that we can, do through licensing and things like that. Building out the games, we have over 250 classic IPs that can be leveraged any of a number of ways, whether through classic collections or reissues or through reimagined versions of games, et cetera, et cetera. But then the other thing Fred said is like, okay, I've kind of knocked down those two, but hardware has always been a big part of Atari. And
right.
Obviously the classic consoles, the Pong consoles, the 2600, the 5200, the 7800, Lynx and Jaguar, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all, important factors. Plus, also there were personal computers, the 400, the 800, et cetera, et cetera. So, Fred said, look, I want to, we've got this idea, right? We've got a bunch of different hardware things that we're working on. But we really want to get back into the hardware business, and we need someone who's been there and knows a little. So so we hit it off, and and I came on board, and the big question really at the time was, okay, we want to do Atari hardware, but does the world want Atari hardware? We know they'll buy the T-shirts at Target, right? And we know that they'll buy the flashback machines, which are kind of like plug and play devices.
Yeah.
And actually we were doing those long before Nintendo and Sega and everybody else and been very successful at them. So the question became, will the public care if Atari, is getting back into the hardware business? So the idea came up, and it wasn't my idea, and I didn't love the idea, but the idea was, maybe we should, look into crowdfunding. So we started talking to the folks at Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And, obviously the preference would have been, if we could build this and sell it, great. But, developing a new game platform or a new entertainment platform.
A lot of money,
right? So, a small company, this new Atari is a small company, right? I mean, we're 25 full-time employees and, and a lot of, partners.
So you're essentially functioning as a startup.
We are a startup with our really
big
well-known name. Yeah, that's exactly right. So the idea of putting this, simply just putting this product out was really not on the table. So the idea was, can we? I'm kidding. I don't have the little kids to run in like all those classic videos, but there's a lot of noise outside the door. Anyway, so the idea of putting it on like crowdfunding was like that's the best way to do proof of concept. So we talked to both, and actually Indiegogo was really proactive and really felt like they were going to be the better partner there. So we proceeded with Indiegogo. We teased we did a 15-second teaser, and I probably should have it on, still have it in the asset library that we gave you, but we did it, and it was all rendered animation. It was literally a 15-second teaser with really dramatic music of something that looked like an Atari device, right? And we dropped that right before E3 in 2017, which was also the year that like Xbox was doing the Xbox One X, and PlayStation was launching the PlayStation 4 Pro, and and arguably Atari stole the show. We didn't do any kind of PR about it. We just kind of put this teaser out there, and people went bananas. What is Atari doing? And I had so many meetings at that event, and it was it was crazy. And
well, you've got two generations of fandom. It's a big population. It's beyond nothing against Xbox or the other console, titles or partners, but
no, I mean, we absolutely love those. They've been a client. I've done work with them. I love Xbox. Great. I still have tons of great friends there. It's my go-to console for AAA, right? And I still love it. And I also have a PlayStation, and I love that. And I have a Nintendo, and I love that. I don't,
yeah.
But we're not about going after those guys, right? So, but anyway, so just to finish the crowdfunding story, and before we talk about those other things, is the crowdfunding. Like I said, whether we liked it or not, it was the only way we could really do a proof of concept. So we launched the crowdfunding in 2018, on I think it was like May 28th or something of 2018, or May 30th of 2018, and literally broke Indiegogo in the first day that it launched. I mean, they had never seen anything like this. They were adding servers and trying to get it back up online, and people were like, accidentally ordering multiple machines because they were, it wasn't processing, right? And so, long story short, we were up there for 1 month. That's all we were up there for live. We netted over well over $4 million. Of that, we made just about $3 million to put towards the project, and we were off. We were off to the races, and the development path really started then. A lot of people wonder why it quote unquote took so long. It really didn't in the grand scheme, but being like why we're here because of fandom. Unfortunately, we also have a segment of our fandom that is incredibly critical, and I'll be kind when I talk about them because I know that they probably care more than anybody.
Yeah, they come from a place of love.
But there was a lot. Well, maybe, arguably, maybe.
Usually,
but there was a lot of really destructive and damaging content that was generated. But what I've seen in 4 years here is that Atari gets clicks. So if you're gonna shred Atari and shred this product, you're going to get clicks, you're going to get views, people are going to watch your videos. And, unfortunately, over the 2.5 years of development, very few of these folks ever bothered to actually come to us and ask us questions. Instead, they relied on each other as source material. And, there's a lot of stuff out there that's just flat out wrong. Right. And, the only thing we could do is what we did and put out a really good, solid product. So to continue the answer to your question, the positioning of the product, we don't call it a console. We don't call it a PC. We call it a PC console hybrid. And that's very deliberate. We're not looking to compete with PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo because we can't, partly, but also because we're not looking to do that. We're trying to sort of carve out and define a new category. So it is more PC than console. But
interesting.
The reason we called it the video computer system, which is the original, Atari 2600 video computer system, is because that's the best description of what it is. It is a computer system that you interface with through a video or a TV monitor. So, we played with a lot of names, and it had a working title of Atari Box, which Xbox was not happy with.
I'm
sure. So ultimately we went back for the tried and true name, and we think, obviously it sticks. And, like if Volkswagen can bring out a new Beetle, we can bring out a new Atari VCS, right? So that
goes with branding, though. I'm sorry, just to interrupt just a little bit, but that goes also with brand pillars, right? And the foundations of your brand and who you are as a company, who Atari is as a brand and as a marketing, entity, and really who are your fans, right? And who is that, what is that community about, and what do they care for? And, going back sometimes to the original is not a bad thing. It's basically going back to your identity and just kind of rediscovering it, brushing it off a little bit, and putting it back out there in a 21st century package.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct, because, obviously by going back to that name, of course, there was a certain segment of the fan base that was like, what do you mean? You can't do that. There was an Atari VCS. Excuse me. But, the reality is, like I said, that name best embodied what this machine was supposed to be, right? Mm-hmm. So that was part of it. We had, it kind of started with the logo too, which sort of, so, I mean, I love the Atari VCS, the new Atari VCS logo. It does a great job of, speaking to the past, but also, positioning us for the future.
Right.
And, that's what this device is about. So, on the one hand, on the console side and all of that, there's absolutely the ability to play classic games. It comes right from the start with the Atari Vault, which is a collection of 100 games that we have now. It's actually the Atari VCS Vault. I think it's the trailer you showed at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's been optimized for this machine. The Vault has been out there for a while, but this is an optimized version that's designed to work best, without a mouse and keyboard. It's designed to be optimized for, our new joystick, which we'll talk about that in a second too, as well as, the more conventional modern controller. But the idea behind the Atari VCS is to sort of, like I said, play on that PC console hybrid idea.
Right.
It's basically a PC that has an interface that behaves like a console. So we call that console side of it, if you will. And I'm going to use the word console, even though we try really hard not to use the word console, just because it'll explain it. It'll allow me to explain it better.
Put it in a frame of reference that people might understand.
Right, exactly. So the Atari VCS, Atari world side of it is very much like a console. It boots up, has a great animation at the beginning, featuring Asteroids, which is Atari's biggest game of all time.
Great game.
It opens up, into a console-like environment. There's a store, there's games and apps, and you can download, the different games and apps and things like that. And it behaves very much like what you would see on one of the big corporate consoles, right? Then what we think is sort of the killer app for us and what absolutely sets us apart is the fact that at its heart, it is a PC. It's powered by an AMD processor, AMD Ryzen processor. It allows you to use what we call PC mode, which lets you get out of the Atari world and you can load any operating system you want, or just about any operating system. Obviously, we lean most towards things like Windows and Linux, but you can also load Steam or Chrome OS and a variety of PC operating systems that let you make or do whatever you want on that side of the computer.
So I can work on my normal work day on my PC, run my Outlook and my Windows and all of that, and then on my lunch break I can hop over to my Atari side.
And actually
play Pong.
And actually we have a partnership with Google Chrome, which allows a lot of that stuff to happen on the Atari side as well. So like if you use Sheets and Google Docs and all that, you'll be right at home. You just plug in, everything is compatible with the VCS. You can plug in a mouse and a keyboard. But so, the question comes up, why do it this way? Well, coming up on 50 years of Atari heritage, right? There's a strong heritage of, not just third-party developers, but, hacking and modding and all of that. And that is still very much alive to this day. Homebrew is still a big part of it. There is a huge population of Atari fans that are still making new games and figuring out how to load them on cartridges and put them into an almost 50-year-old machine, the Atari 2600. So, we wanted to embrace that part of the community and give them a platform where, hey, if they don't want to be in the Atari side of it and they want to run ROMs and emulators and things like that, they're already doing it with much less powerful things like Raspberry Pis and things like that. Let them have at it, right? And it's something that, like, PlayStation and Xbox would never let you do. And, somebody hacked the Switch shortly after it came out, and Nintendo, clamped down on that right away. And we're saying, hey, this is your box, not ours. We're not forcing you into this huge ecosystem that we're trying to build. We're not locking you into a subscription, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as much as I love my Xbox, I know that ultimately, even though it's in my house, it's still kind of Microsoft's box, because to truly enjoy it, you have to buy into their subscriptions and things like that. And, what we're trying to do is create something that,
it's more like into a lifestyle, right? I mean, even the design aspect, it matches into your decor potentially. So I think we're going to show a couple images of that too. But
I have the real one. I have the real one here. This is the collector's edition that was only available on the Indiegogo. We only made 6,000 of these. It comes with a it comes with, you can't see it, I'm sure, but there's kind of a hologram on the back with a number on it. There's a certificate that matches the number, very, very special, designed to really echo and be a modern take on the old 2600. There's also a black one called the Onyx. There is a new wood one that's got a darker wood called the black walnut. That's going to be sort of our bread and butter. So this one's really special. This one, like I said, there's only 6,000 of these out there. And, the Indiegogo backers who backed this, got their hands on these, very recently, actually. And
some comments. Thanks for jumping in on that, you guys, because, now it's available for the rest of us.
No, it's, so I at this point, I don't even remember the exact question, but we're, we wanted a device. Well, I was just saying, we wanted a device that was going to embrace a lot of the things that the Atari consoles and computers of the past did. Right. So, there's a lot of, the critics of the device, criticize it for its price, things like that. But yes, if you compare it to a PlayStation or an Xbox, heck yeah, those guys are selling, I know from building hardware, they're selling over $1,000 worth of hardware for $499. Because they can afford to take the loss because they're selling you into these ecosystems. Atari, smaller company, building something that is much more PC oriented. If you compare the VCS to a comparable PC, you're probably spending about $800. We're selling the all-in bundle, which I can also show what that looks like. And you've got slides, but this is the black walnut all-in, which of course is being killed by the filters on it. But
we got some images of that too.
So that's $399 with a controller and a joystick. You can't buy a mini PC.
I find that pretty reasonable.
Yeah, of comparable power and capability for plus the joysticks, which are worth over $100. For less than $700-800. So that's the economy that we're looking at, and plus on top of that. Atari needs to sell these and make a small profit. We don't, especially if you're selling it to someone who's never going to tap into our ecosystem. But obviously, if you do tap into our ecosystem, there's plenty of things to do there. And I mentioned, the Chrome partnership is super interesting and important because the Chrome partnership lets us literally let you take, not only do you get all the security and functionality of Chrome, we're the only game system that comes with Chrome pre-installed. It's not on Xbox, it's not on PlayStation. So you got the best browser in the world, which of course also enables you to, stream any video you want, go to, whether it's Disney Plus or Netflix or Amazon Prime Video.
It's almost like a home entertainment unit. So we've got some comments and some questions, which I want to also not ignore here. But one of the most recent ones that came through was basically, what makes it unique to me by doing something different other than what the big gaming companies are doing. And you're highlighting some of those features, which is basically a home entertainment system, plus my gaming, plus my streaming, unit.
Plus productivity, whether it's on the PC mode or using, the Chrome apps, you can do that. You can do spreadsheets and Word documents and all that.
And what about some of the traditional gameplay? Well, not traditional, now it's traditional, but as far as RPGs, and there's a specific question around dungeon crawlers and first person shooters. How are you guys approaching
so
that?
we want to get to all of that, and actually, so we've been slowly but steadily, just chronologically. So we, took us a while to get there. We've been fighting, thanks to COVID, the gift that keeps on giving, fighting with these crazy, supply chain issues, and whether it's a part or just getting it off a boat. It's like, I've never seen anything like this. And honestly, everybody in the business says they've never seen anything like this. So it's been painful, but finally we started shipping, which was really important to us. We wanted to get these things into people's hands for the holidays. And largely we were successful doing that. Most of the products started shipping in early mid-December. When people started getting them. That's the Indiegogo backers. So we shipped, just over 10,000 units to the Indiegogo backers. And the Indiegogo backers had been told for quite some time that, they're going to get finished hardware, but they're, whether they like it or not, they're sort of part of a beta group for us because we needed that. We've bug tested the heck out of them with a small group of folks, but, now we have, 8 to 10,000 people who can, tell us what they need to do. So we created a community on Discord. We also, gave them a lot of other pathways in to get us feedback and information, and been really successful getting a lot of really valuable feedback from them, while at the same time, slowly but surely, introducing new games. And, for example, we just dropped something yesterday called Tail Gunner, which is based on a classic retro game. So there's a mix of, retro flavored games.
Yeah.
We're also leading very hard into indie games. We did a partnership with a community called Game Jolt, which is one of the premier indie game incubators. We've been doing a lot of direct outreach to smaller independent developers. And if you think back, that's how Activision started. They started making games for the 2600, right? So, if you think about it and you say, okay, today's indie game could be tomorrow's, AAA blockbuster. We hope that we can make stars out of these indie developers who, whether they're making an original game or reimagining a retro game or reimagining, one of our IPs into something modern, bringing those forth. But then at the same time, we're putting a lot of effort and energy and resources into sort of democratizing a lot of and bringing back and making easier access for older retro games. So,
I think we have some of those too, right? I think you're bringing back Boulder Dash and Missile Command. Boulder Dash is a great example. Missile Command Recharge is a great example. So in the case of Missile Command Recharge, that's obviously one of our games reimagined and optimized for the new classic joystick and modern controller, and optimized for the VCS. There's also a mobile game version of it. But yeah, it's that one's very, very faithful to the original, as is Boulder Dash. So Boulder Dash is one, that got its start on the old Atari machines, and, the new guys, the guys who own that property now and created this new game, they launched it on the Atari VCS. That's exciting, right? Because it's, ultimately it's going to be on the other consoles, but it's on the VCS first, and that's something that we want to do. We want to keep seeing these reimagined games and collections, and we are talking to a lot of the historical legacy partners. Obviously we need to build up critical mass. With 10,000 machines out there right now, and us having to forecast half as many for the year as we normally would have, just simply because it's restricted.
Supply chain,
hard
right?
Yeah,
it's so hard. But we're going to keep building. But we feel very strongly that job one was completed, and that is introduce a solid piece of hardware that can be your foundation, and then you can build as tall a tower on that as you want if the foundation is solid. And luckily, thankfully, the community has really responded, and a lot of the critics have even turned around. There's a lot of videos and unboxings and teardowns and things that could have been very, very critical, but actually, they're really appreciative of the TLC that we put into the project and into the product. People are taking it apart and say, hey, this is a really well-built machine. And then they're also playing with it and figuring out, things that it can do and testing its capabilities in ways that we haven't even had a chance or ability to do yet. And it's really exciting to see people, running all kinds of different games, whether they're, one guy actually got, Cyberpunk 2077, which is like a crazy difficult game. He got it running on the VCS. I'm going to, confess, it doesn't run great, but it runs, which is amazing, and Cyberpunk has sort of become, there's an old trope and an old joke in the game business that you probably have heard even, can it play Crysis? And, so probably can,
but
yeah, no, actually the original Crysis it can do just fine. There's a remaster that's probably going to be a challenge, but anyway, the point I'm making is that we want a box that will allow people to play all these different things, and sort of whether we're bringing back a lot of retro games and things like that, or embracing the indie community and making them the stars, treating them like they're our AAAs, right?
Yeah.
And then if you want AAA, guess what? Because of Chrome, you can play AAA games via Stadia on the VCS, and that's really exciting too. And we actually realize that there are some other streaming streaming platforms that that could make sense for this going forward. And look, we're talking to a lot of people, and we can only do so much so fast. So it's always that old equation of if there's 100 opportunities in front of you, you got to pick like the half a dozen. There's 150 things that you want to do. You got to start with the 5 that you can do, and then keep layering on. And the more you add, the bigger it gets. And
let's highlight one more. So we have a trailer for Gun Tech.
So, Gun Tech is another great reimagination of an original Atari game by a third-party Atari game by a guy who actually worked on the original. So
cool. So let's take a look at that trailer.
Go for it. Yeah, it's a great game.
Welcome to Utopos Space Station. This was once the new hope for humans. A utopia in space. Those days are long gone. But now, Utopos has become the center of a new fight. A fight that will determine the future of humankind. A deadly virus is spreading across the solar system. We need your help. Captain, you are our only hope.
Wow. So we got a lot of excitement on the chat there with a lot of comments, lots of love for Gun Tech. So thanks for sharing that with us. That was really great.
Yeah, that is a great game. That's probably our best seller right now, although I think that there's a couple of others, Danger Scavenger and the one that I mentioned earlier, Tail Gunner. I think those are going to, but all the games are doing great. I mean, there's a voracious appetite. Everybody who's got one of these machines is really excited to get them. I did see a couple of comments. Somebody asked about, first-person shooters and things like that. Obviously you can play, all the popular ones on the PC side. So, you can play Fortnite and Overwatch and whatever, Call of Duty, depending on as long as you are steeped in how to get that all working on the PC side, you should be fine. We do have several interesting games that we are yet to launch and yet to announce that should satisfy a lot of folks. We also want to add sports games. We want to add, RPGs. We want to add a lot of different things, that'll run the gamut. I mean, obviously, it's baby steps, like I said, but, we've got a lot of things planned and a lot of things coming. And, there's going to be a lot, there's going to be something there, hopefully, for everyone. I mean, obviously, if you, we have to be careful.
Once you have the platform, you can feed it, right? You can create all kinds of things and build off of that. And not only will you guys have your direction, but then the fan community will have theirs and be able to build their pieces as well.
Right. And we have a very active, obviously a very active fan community across, all of our social channels. And then, like I said, we've got a private Discord for the Indiegogo backers only. We'll obviously do a bigger version of that that's wide open in public when the time comes. But but really, we talked about pillars earlier, and really this product really has kind of three main pillars. One is obviously games of all kinds, retro, moderns, all of that, and then the next piece is going to be sort of PC mode and productivity, and that's combination of PC mode and the Chrome capabilities, and then of course streaming. And streaming includes not just Netflix and the video ones, YouTube and Twitch and all that, but also means things like Stadia, like I mentioned before, and other game streaming. And there was a lot of like, where's the cartridge when we first showed this thing? Where's the cartridge go? But the reality is like the future is digital, and this is meant to be a forward-facing machine. And I always talk about this with team members and press and folks. A lot of times I equate this to, like I mentioned, the Volkswagen Beetle before, but I always talk about the VCS like as though it was like a modern day Mini Cooper, right? So it looks like that thing from the 70s and 80s, but the reality is that under the hood, it looks like it's part of the family, and it looks like it's evolved. But, under the hood, it's completely modern, right? And it has, just like a modern Mini Cooper, it has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all that other stuff. So the idea of, building an Atari for the future, for those who criticize that approach, I basically say, yeah, but you guys have, first of all, you've had a huge, huge opportunity to find like a 40-year-old, 2600, because they're out there and all the other hardware is out there, and there's tons of collectors, and there's a very, very thriving marketplace for that. Plus, there are other machines that have come along that will take those cartridges. So we felt like that need was being satisfied. What we wanted to do was, and this is where, again, the Mini Cooper analogy comes in really well, is like, we wanted to build something that would work really well for the old fans like me, right? But that would also work. Yeah, that would also appeal to people like my kids and your kids, like future kids. Because the other thing that's really interesting to us is something else that comes from the Atari heritage, and that we're going to explore, as we move along, is the idea of a $300 computer that is totally cool. Think about that in schools, right? Think about that for STEM and things like that. So, yes, there's a lot of Raspberry Pi building and things like that happening in schools. And a lot of that has to do with the prohibitive costs of having, a kid build an actual PC, right? So, we've got a machine here that you like I said, you can hack, you can side load it in a new OS, but also you can upgrade it. You can open it up, add more RAM, add more storage,
that's pretty
either
cool.
Externally or not. It comes with an open SSD slot, so you can put a 500 gig.
It can grow up with you, essentially, right? So if you start off as a younger user, you can kind of grow up with it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the hardcores, or the first thing they did was open it up, max it out to 32 gigs of RAM so that it would scream. Which, by the way, VCS fans, update it before you add any hardware to it, because that's really important. When you get the machine, it comes with the factory image. You need to let it do its update, and a lot of times, people
forget that.
They put all the stuff in before they. Yeah, so just an aside, a little customer service love for my customer service team, who has to teach them how to unbork the machine after they do that. But
so where can we find it? I mean, where so the
great question.
The early adopters got it. Where can folks like us get it?
Yeah, so right now they are available for pre-order on AtariVCS.com, where you can get the Black Walnut, the Onyx and Onyx bundle. The bundle is exclusive at GameStop. You can get that on GameStop.com. You can also get them on Walmart.com. There's also going to be some others added very soon, some popular retailers. And we are now actively in Australia. We are hoping by the end of the year to add UK and Western Europe. And, but yeah, baby steps. I mean, again, we want everything we do to be done right. We owe it to the fans. We owe it to ourselves, because, we could very easily get ahead of ourselves and, and get in trouble. We don't we want this machine and this platform to have long legs and to last a long time, and to not end up, as a novelty in, gaming history.
So you build it right,
because Atari's done enough, novelties, for
that land up in a landfill.
Yeah, exactly. So so it's really, really, really important both for us to be successful and to deliver what the fans deserve.
Yeah. But one place that you can actually test it out, hopefully in the near future, will be in the Atari hotels, right?
Yeah, that's actually a really, I'm glad you brought that up, because ultimately that is like one of the craziest homages to fandom, like that.
I can't wait to get a room there.
Any company I've worked for has done. So yeah, the fact, somebody came to us with that concept, and obviously, we had to think long and hard, but when they gave us their pitch, and actually, the folks that are involved, one of them is Steve Wozniak, who, founder of Apple, also a former Atari employee who was, very involved in Breakout, which is one of our biggest games of all. Mm-hmm. So a lot of credibility in the group that is, developing that. Plus, they brought in, some of the top hotel experts on the planet. So that's a really exciting initiative that is, unlike, like, I don't know if there's any other, gaming brands that could do that, right? But like I said at the beginning of the call, we've sort of transcended gaming, and we're very much a lifestyle brand. And you see it in like the product placements and the brand Blade Runner behind me from a couple of years ago, but we're in Stranger Things, and we're in Walking Dead, and we're in the Goldbergs, and like it's so many places, and our head of licensing has never gotten more PTUs, which I know you probably know what that means, but for the public it means permission to use logos and things. So we've got arcade machines in that were in like the Wonder Woman movie, and there's just like all kinds of things, and plus there's gonna be a lot of other interesting things coming out based on Atari IP. So yeah, the rebirth is happening. I feel like energized by a lot of, when the internal meetings, there's so many things I can't talk about. We're a public company, and but there's a lot of reason to be excited,
And I'm sure future competitors, because we've got one comment about Intellivision Amico aiming to compete, but I'm sure it really just makes everybody sharper, right? Like, it's not a negative, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think what Intellivision is doing is interesting. I think what Intellivision is doing is a lot more, and I don't want to speak for them, but my impression of it. First of all, we're involved in that. They license a number of games, so there will be Atari games on the Intellivision. But the Intellivision is, it's much more of a closed traditional console environment. It's very different than what we're doing. It's not as powerful as our machine, but what it does pretty well. So I agree with you. I think the more people are talking about a new Atari or a new Intellivision or a new Sega or whatever it is, it's all boats rise. I think it's a good time to be what I would call a retro brand or a heritage brand right now. There's a lot of, if you look at, I'll bring cars in again, right? If you look at, Jeeps, they look like they did 30 years ago. Mini Coopers look like they did 30 years ago. Mustang is trying to look like it did 30 years ago, right?
Retro and nostalgia is just kind of in right now, whether it be from fashion into decor. So
yeah, Adidas, is another one that is like a great, Polaroid, all these things, you go to Urban Outfitters and, you can buy a Polaroid that spits out the old school print, right? So it's so there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm for Atari. There always has been. So we have a huge fandom, and we have a huge part to play in legacy, but we also want to be very relevant and forward thinking. Right. So so things like the hotel are really exciting. And yes, you're right. There will be an Atari VCS in every hotel room, right? So
I'll be a beta tester for the hotel rooms.
I can't remember if if Florida and Orlando is one of the
I think
markets.
the first one definitely is Vegas. So, you know, we go out there enough for
Vegas
work,
and
so.
Phoenix, I think. Yeah, the guys are they're in Vegas. So, but yeah, Vegas will be the over the top,
I'm sure
crazy
it will.
one, of course. Yeah.
So as I warned you before we started this whole segment, it goes really fast. The time goes really fast. So we're about to start winding down. So, but I want to make sure that people get the information so we can get pre-orders on the website.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the easiest place to go find all those passes, AtariVCS.com. And, you know, the Atari web store website is up and doing pre-orders. Those pre-orders for both the retailers and for AtariVCS.com, those pre-orders, we expect those to start shipping to customers in April. So we're excited about that. I mean, obviously, you know, knock wood, right? Because, you know, those, we hear horror stories of ships like sitting in Los Angeles Harbor for 3 weeks at a time.
Containers are just sitting there.
And then the container comes in and then it sits at customs for a month. And it's crazy. We've experienced some of that already. Even the Indiegogo stuff, we thought it was going to ship the beginning of December and we'd be able to deal with it. And of course it shipped literally into the holiday period and,
well, we
got it in service
hand.
And everything is closed. Yeah. So anyway, so all of that is going to be happening. And so I mean, if people want one of these, we have a couple of ways for you to get them. Obviously, AtariVCS.com, the retailers. There's also a waiting list if you don't want to, drop your money right now. We will market to those guys. So they're coming. They're going to be scarce and rare. I'll say that. I mean, they're more scarce. They're going to be more scarce than we want them to be for sure. So people who want them, I definitely encourage anybody who wants one to pre-order or at very least get on the waiting list so that when they are available, you have first crack at it. Hopefully by holiday we are up and running. And like I said, I'm also up and running in Europe, which is really important to us. But
people can follow along on all the social platforms too, right?
They can follow. Yeah, I mean, we have there's the main Atari channel. There's the Atari VCS channels. There's the Atari Life or Atari Lifestyle channels. They cross pollinate and weave in and out of each other. We also do a lot of we do medium blog. The people who are interested in more deep dive into the hardware and the development of the games and things like that. We have, you can get a link from our Atari VCS website to our Medium blog where we've sort of tracked the progress of this project almost from day one. You can go back, a year and see factory pictures and R&D and things like that. And, cross sections of the products and things like that. So it's pretty exciting.
And for those people who are following along or will, have missed this live stream right now, this will actually be up on our YouTube channel probably in the next few days. So, be faithful, be diligent. We will clean it up and have all the highlights and all the trailers. So nothing's going to get edited out that shouldn't be edited out.
And of course, Atari will, help socialize that as well and amplify that as well. So
we'll definitely, anyone who, you know a friend that wanted to catch this but couldn't catch it, or if you just want to rewatch it, and catch all the highlights again, we'll definitely have it on YouTube and we will, share that out with everyone so you can enjoy it again or share it with your friends. But Michael, I am so sorry this has come to an end, but it's always so enjoyable to talk to you and share my own fandom for Atari, my first, memories of playing Pong in my room with my, singular joystick. But it was so great. And I really enjoy having this conversation with you, and come back and update us on, what else is happening and what else we can expect.
Yeah, we can talk more around launch when we have a few other interesting games to talk about. And let's by all means, you know where to find me.
And you guys know where to find us. So follow us here every week on FanGirl Friday Live, 1 p.m. Eastern, where we unpack the business behind fandom. Next week, we'll probably be talking about manga, I think. So tune in for that. We always have something great and great surprises for you. And thank you for your time. And thank you for joining with us this week and every week if you've been following along. And we'll see you again next week, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks.